Hello, my dear friends. At last, time has arrived when I can reveal all the secrets which I learned about well-tempered clavier for the past 4 years, which I spent day and night with this completely different world, completely new world, a new dimension of music making and musical thought, as it appeared to be completely unknown world. So what's so special about well-tempered clavier, which we don't know? In fact, we know only the name. We don't know the cycle, we don't know the music, it's all new. And it happened by many reasons, which I'll be mentioning from time to time during my 24 reports from the studio. Each report will be dedicated to one Prelude and Fugue. As all we know, it's 24, so it will be 24 short reports. What was the biggest mistake of humanity which did not allow to enter to this magical portal to the future, to the new philosophy, new music, new aesthetic, new thought, and it is as well a portal to the past or to the timeless sphere where the only one rule is eternity, where we can meet Bach personally. When we're getting into the core of this music, understanding everything, listening, all the 24 different characters, or 48, because it's Prelude and Fugues. So 24 Prelude and Fugues make 48 short pieces, saturated with lots and lots of new information we have to learn, study, and get accustomed to. The main problem was not defining the goal setting of well-tempered clavier, because the magic of the well-tempered clavier reveals only after certain mastery is achieved. That's why I always remind you, and will be reminding you, a few words which are written by Bach on the first edition, on the title list of the first edition of the well-tempered clavier in 1722, where he writes that this set of Prelude and Fugues is designed for those who want to study music, and that's very important, for very special entertainment of those who succeed. And the second part of this, Bach's wish, was never fulfilled because the goal settings were never defined. So it's appeared to be, after my long study, in detail, the cycle started to reveal me all its secrets, which was not possible before I memorized all the cycle, because all these little details, all the algorithms suggesting the tempo relations, characters, pictures, everything with which the cycle saturated. Actually, it is the entire European life in there, the entire Bach's brain in there, with all his preferences and musical habits, his aesthetics, his thoughts, his knowledge, his preferences in music. all these characters revealed only when a certain speed and mastery is achieved. And this proper pace and speed of each piece is dictated by special key elements in every prelude and fugue. Or sometimes it is algorithms which repeating itself from prelude and fugue, from one to another, on the entire cycle, the entire canvas of the whole cycle. And only when it's memorized and when every single detail is, you can actually go through every detail in your brain without even touching the piano, touching the keyboard. Only then you can find out all these algorithms and key elements. Learning one or two or even dozen of prelude and fugues would not help. You can penetrate inside of all the ideas and all the secrets of the cycle only when it's memorized and it's easily played in your brain. In any part of the cycle, or also in reverse, because Bach has mathematical mind and mathematical language, it can be played sometimes backwards and forwards. It will be giving you more and more ideas what Bach wanted to say and how he wanted it sounded. So when everything was in my brain, when I started constantly going through the old texts in my head, I started to see all these key elements, suggesting the tempos, suggesting the tempo relations, suggesting the characters, suggesting the pictures, suggesting the whole content of practically each bar or each tone, because it's saturated with so many philosophical ideas, so many artistic ideas, that sometimes each tone is speaking about several pages of written literal language. That's the magic of music language, because it's incredibly condensed. And sometimes one tone or relation between two tones can tell us what literal language will be saying several minutes. That's one of the greatest advantages of music language, where we can be so laconic that we can put the entire novel or huge philosophical study in a space of a couple of pages of musical text. So what was the main point? The main point, which was missed by humanity, that it is a polyphonic studies, etudes, putting it in our simple literal language. I call it the musical mathematical cognitive structures, if we use in philosophical language. If we use the simple language, verbal conversational language, then it will be a polyphonic transcendental studies. And as we all know, that studies require first of all a certain speed and certain mastery, and then it started to reveal its artistic qualities. Same is here, absolutely the same. All the artistic beauty, the aesthetic beauty revealed only after certain speed and certain mastery achieved. Which never happened because the musical humanity went completely other way. Not understanding the goal setting, they started to interpret it, which is completely wrong. You cannot interpret something you know, and you cannot interpret clear mathematical language, because it's like a mathematical formulas. You know it or you don't know it. If you don't know it, you start to interpret it. That's a very human mistake. And if we'll draw a parallel to some comical situation, the well-tempered clavier appeared to be like some future gadget that was given to people. And people didn't understand this gadget, didn't understand the purpose of it. Started a very human natural way. They started deification of something they didn't understand and started practically praying to this. Like given by Bach a mobile phone for calling to Bach and God, they started deificate this mobile phone, and instead of calling, they started praying to it. That's what happened, which is very human and which was very comical. But in fact, it is a tragic mistake, because for these 300 years which humanity missed understanding of well-tempered clavier, the entire music current and development could be in much more healthier way than it happened to be, because this great musical gadget for flying to different dimensions were never properly understood and never fulfilled. So, polyphonic studies as well, I have to mention, I'm trying to be as brief as possible, as you understand, for what I was learning day to day for during 4 years. I need another 4 years to tell about this, but I cannot do this. And I will be as laconic as possible. And from time to time, if I will be missing something today in my introductory talk, then I will be remembering it during the next report and mentioning it. So what else is important? The main thing is the polyphonical studies, which reveals its beauty on a certain speed with a certain mastery. Another thing is Prelude and Fugues. They are all one body. This is very important. So they have to be very tightly connected in tempo-wise. Practically the same tempo, because every prelude has the character of philosophy, introduction, like an introduction to the fugue. And besides that, all the fugues and all the preludes, they are related with each other with the compositional matters, practically like a skeleton, and the organism in flesh. Like prelude would be a skeleton of the calming fugue, and preparing us for the narratives which will be developed in fugue, or vice versa. If it is a philosophical fugue, we have philosophical prelude, which will be preparing us for the philosophy of the fugue. If it is a purely technical, we will be purely technically prepared with practically the same material, just put in more simple way in prelude than in fugue it will be developed, and so on and so forth. Therefore, it is one body. It is very, very important to keep the same tempo between prelude and fugue, because it is one musical organism. So now we know it is one body, and I will be showing you in all these 24 short reports how it's related. Why do I know this? And after 24 reports, with 24 Prelude and Fugues, you will know it exactly as good as I am. So, polyphonical studies, speed, mastery. Prelude and Fugue is one body. That's probably the main thing which we're missing and completely misleading all the musicians during 3 centuries. Another thing technique. The technique which Bach uses here is completely lost and never developed. I call this technique, after understanding its nature and what shall be done, I call this octopus technique, because of enormous independence of the fingers, like tentacles. And the tasks for each finger, which we don't know in our modern techniques. And flexibility, span between the fingers, between each fourth and fifth, third and fourth, 2 and 3, thumb and second. There is no difference for Bach in our physiological possibilities of span or independence of the finger or right and left. He doesn't want to know about any physiological limitations. That's why he writes only what can be theoretically played. But in fact, I'm sure that he could play everything with his own technique, because those days every great master had his own technique. And Bach developed this octopus technique to such an extent that without acquiring this technique, without developing this technique, it is impossible to play. You can survive playing 1 or 2 or 5 Prelude and Fugues, but you cannot play freely 24 Prelude and Fugues, fulfilling all the tasks, revealing all the secrets and beauty of music, without building completely new technique, which I call octopus technique. After such an independence of each fingers developed, when we don't have right and left differences between right and left hands, we don't have weak fingers like fourths, fifths, we don't have any limitations of changing the fingers on one key in any speed. Also, when we are achieving enormous freedom, dividing practically our 2 hands, our 2 limbs, on 4 independent physiological mediums which can play in any tempo, any musical materials, independent in 2 voices by each hand. It means, like, for example, Chopin study or Liszt studies designed for 2 hands, designed for impressing the audiences with all these glittering passages up and down and so on and so forth. They are completely helpless, first of all, for this technique, because Bach's technique concentrated not on the impressing the audiences, but getting inside the keyboard, having limitless possibilities for bringing any philosophical ideas, which nobody did after him. Therefore, all this technique is completely lost after the Bach's ideas never was understood, developed, promoted. Bach was practically forgotten as a virtuoso player, and his technique was buried and forgotten and never developed, because our modern technique is very primitive. And that's why I mentioned Chopin homophonic studies, because in Bach's texture we have like 5 times of each task which Chopin puts in his this or that study. In Bach's texture we have it simultaneously, like 5 Chopin's etudes would be put in one, in different voices, but with the same difficulties of task. So therefore, the difficulties of bringing everything to life will be like from 5 to 10 times more difficult than bringing any of Chopin's or Liszt studies. That's for you to imagine the amount of work should be spent and the necessity of developing completely new technique, octopus technique. Without this, it is not possible to bring it with ease, enjoying the new physiology and let people to enjoy the completely new sensations of aesthetic of receiving the sound. It's a new world, it's a portal to many new worlds, to the multiple portal for the multiple worlds. It's the world of infinite development of human, intellectually, physiologically. It's the portal to the world of infinite development of the music, because we have enormous possibilities, having from 5 to 10 voices in our disposal on the virtuosic level of modern studies. That means that we can practically play the polyphonic symphonies on the keyboard instrument using the octopus technique. So it's completely new world as well for composers and for compositions. As well, this is a portal to the timeless zone when we meet Bach, when we see all the European life in sounds, because it's becoming so, the images and the artistry and all the life habits of the time becoming so clear that we see a completely new world, like traveling in the time machine to the past. So therefore, it's even difficult to mention how many new worlds are opening when we, using the Bach words, when we succeeded in bringing and understanding properly well-tempered clavier. It's really will open the new era for musicians and for music, for composition and for performing, which can last, I don't know how many years, 1,000 years at least, developing the ideas and possibilities which Bach produced in well-tempered clavier, giving us completely new technique and the new sound world, new sonic world, new sonic space, if you wish, where we have limitless possibilities of enjoying the sound worlds. So today I will play for you the Prelude and Fugue No. 1, C major, and briefly explain what it's all about. Again, pointing some comical mistakes which humans did, especially relating to the interpretation. As it is very, very difficult study, C major fugue, which has very busy texture. 4 voices. All voices are developed. And the prelude here, the famous C major prelude. I will be using this piano for illustration because this piano was a dinged sound. I practice on this piano with a very low sound to avoid the brain explosion after practicing for many, many hours, for many, many years. And it will give me a possibility to simultaneously play and show you speaking, explaining the tasks and the secrets of each Prelude and Fugue. So, as I told you, there are some key elements which suggest characters, philosophy, and tempo. For example, if we take seriously and start to analyze the first theme, we will come to a conclusion that this is a very laconic musical thought, which starts speaking to us in a classical way with a laconic, condensed character only on a certain speed. Before this, it will be just a bunch of sounds, bunch of notes. By the way, in each little report, I will be telling you and showing you when the number of notes becoming the music, which is still, as history of last 300 years showed us, it is still a puzzle for many, because not proper musical and philosophical analysis of each serious music, each piece of serious music. For example, the theme in the major fugue sounds like this. You all know the theme, of course, from music schools and countless performances, but it doesn't say anything before we bring it to the proper character. And proper character is a very classic, already predicting the Haydn's themes of sonatas, or Mozart's sonatas themes, with a very clear character, with a clear classical music thought. And when we bring it to the point of making sense, it sounds like this. And it's becoming lively, it's becoming real music thought, which could be developed. Then we start to understand all the interactions of 16ths in different voices, and we start to understand how Bach enjoys with all this, putting when it's put on a certain speed and presented in a certain speed, it's becoming a pure joy, a pure inspirational experience, enjoying of the beautiful passages in each of four voices, which interacting with each other in a very characteristic way. When we're coming to all his cadences, like, for example, the first little cadenza in the end of exposition, when all voices are saturated with the fast notes and they start to interact. It's becoming beautiful sonata-like music. And in fact, again, when we start to speak and compare this magic music to, as I was comparing to Chopin studies or Liszt studies or classical sonatas, it would be like in a little thesis, because all the fugues and preludes are short as a philosophical thesis. And all these theses, short theses of Bach, would be embracing the ideas of 10, 20 sonatas of Mozart or Haydn, put all together in a very condensed form, when it's properly executed. And now we're coming to the technical tasks. Here we immediately confronted with the ideas of the octopus technique, when we have to play with 1/5 finger the entire melody in the low voice. I show you how it works. for example, and here. It's played by one, it should be played legato and it's played by one finger. Then we have the key element with a fast note, so the 30 seconds. When we have one voice, it's not that difficult. When we have two voices, it's still okay, but when the third and fourth are added, it's becoming a torture if we don't have octopus technique. Because one finger and then this figuration designed for the third, fourth, and fifth finger on the left hand in the low voice when all other three voices are busy with the different materials, which makes the task already enormously difficult. Then we have fully developed two voices separately working in one hand, and one hand is completely divided on two remote controls, if we would say, if we use our today's language. I wanted to see how it works. So we have the pure independent invention, two voices invention, saturated with fast notes, with passages, in one hand, divided on two. And then our right hand, actually Bach makes us forget where is right, where is left. He is also training our vestibular apparatus so we can do practically with our body everything possible which is required by musical text without even asking ourselves whether it's possible or not possible. So the right hand would be doing this text. And then it goes to the formal cadenza, which is quite difficult even for one voice. We have it in two voices in one hand. We are confronted here also with enormous span. Changing fingers, positions, all in a space of a fraction of a second. It doesn't interest Bach. He knows that we have enough fingers to play it, and that's it. How we do it, how clever we will use our fingers, it's up to us. It's also a great puzzle to solve in every Prelude and Fugue, as in every transcendental study, is to create a very interesting fingering, which will make possible to play as fast as possible, as smooth as possible, and as comfortable as possible. So, and when we put all together, we have completely different texture, which completely unfamiliar to our ears because it's new world. By the richness of the texture, as you saw already, it's two independent voices, saturated with technical difficulties in left hand and right hand. So we already have our two hands divided on four, and all four are busy with playing independent voices, saturated with the technical tasks. And the music is becoming double, triple, quadruple more interesting, rich than something which we are used to listen for hundreds of years. And then we have a music like this, let's say, the cadenza of the end of, in the end of exposition. So we have four voices playing virtuosic music, each voice in each hand divided on two. And when we put it all together, we're having practically already homophonic music, which is, at the end of the day, the idea of Bach. Using polyphony, using many voices structure, give us a sensation that it's a homophonic music when it's really presented. And then we hear and receive it in our brain just as enormously rich texture. Not already seeing the current of every voice in a slow motion, as students would play it like this. We don't need it. When we come to the real mastery, real speed, and practically, as I told already you, that becoming a new man, the man of new civilization, which Bach apparently wanted to do with this well-tempered human. We have different aesthetic. We have to learn to receive this new sonic world, which we don't know. This is very important. This is not the music you listen, relax, and forget. This is a new sonic world for your living in new sound world, a new philosophical world, a new sonic space. Enjoying it constantly, like plunging in a magic water, achieving eternal use, eternal joy, eternal physical joy, eternal philosophical joy, and eternal joy of hearing completely new world, which will make you much more free and happy and will tune your soul and brain constantly. So this music is not for listening and forgetting. This is music in living, in listening it. So now I will come to Prelude for a second, and you definitely will agree with me that it is very stupid to interpret something which actually done as a preparation and as a key for the fugue. By this prelude, Bach just suggesting that it's a celestial music, and the fugue, overloaded with information, 4 voices, to avoid it being heavy, performed with overloaded strings and so on and so forth, he gives us a key how it should sound. It should sound the same celestial and transparent, no matter how many voices he put, no matter how many difficult tasks to be solved. Therefore, it's just for performer. It is a little warm-up before incredibly difficult fugue. And as I told you, it's one body. Prelude gives already us a path to the fugue, give the right pace, and right preparing the character and speed. Therefore, assuming all the information we have, figuring out in all these beautiful cadences which I played for you, with all this beautiful interaction of the voices, it's especially beautiful at the end of the fugue when Bach does it with such a great fantasy that it's really becoming streaming like rivers in paradise can only sound. It goes from one voice to another, giving us incredible sensation of this beautiful current of paradise music. And therefore, it was very naive to think that Bach was composing such a music like giving basic harmony harmonies of the tonality in a most simple way. It's done not to interpret with injection our human soapy and sentimental imagination. By the way, about injecting yourself playing Bach music, it's absolute taboo. You cannot interpret, you cannot inject yourself, because there is none of sentimentalism or personal emotions and so on and so forth. It's a pure mathematics where everything is already said, what Bach wanted to say. All the characters are there, all the pictures are there, all the philosophy is there. You just have to use your remote control without any possible boundaries to bring it as a mathematical formulas, and they will start to speak and show you the new world. Therefore, just transparency in right tempo. Completely distant and remote. And then we have this beautiful classical tema developed into the paradise-like sound world. Now I will go to another piano with normal sound and play it for you.